Winsford, for what it's worth, only has one really negative YouTube video about it, and it describes it as the most dangerous medium-sized town in Cheshire. The description of the video goes on to describe it as being the 32nd out of about 300 towns in Cheshire, and essentially what that means is that it's in the top 10%, but it is also the ninth largest town, so it kind of makes sense. So I want to point out that I'm not here to argue with that video directly. I think what the person that's made this video is doing is actually a good thing, pointing out the problems with the world. If I were to start a video by saying that Winsford overall is the ninth largest town by population, but is 32nd in the rankings in terms of being most dangerous, that would paint it in a slightly fairer light than by just leading with it calling it the most dangerous medium-sized town. And so now we're going to switch over to my on-the-day footage, continuing on the theme of YouTube.
Go on YouTube and you type in a lot of Cheshire towns, a lot of the bigger towns, especially Warrington, Ellesmere Port, Winsford, which is I think the ninth in size, or the ninth in population at least, apart from maybe Chester, which essentially when you search those towns up, it's kind of a mix between maybe a little bit of history, maybe a little bit of positivity, but then there's tends to be people that go to these towns, find the rundown places and really sort of hammer at them. And some people are trying to do it to raise awareness of the problems in today's society, which I don't mind. Then they do tend to just go and cherry pick, they speak to the people that are the worst off and they go around the neighbourhoods that are the worst off, and you kind of get this idea that the town itself isn't that great. So I'm here to do a more balanced view. Yes, there is a lot of negativity in the world right now, but also there needs to be some positivity. There needs to be a more balanced look. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go impressions of the town. So this is part one. I've been here 15-20 minutes. I got off the train and it was quite interesting. So normally you get off the train in a new town and you're kind of not far from the thick of the action. You're like 10-15 minute walk max from the town centre. It's normally a more built up area. However, for Winsford, the train was sort of on the edge of town, and it's a half-hour walk to the town centre, which is what I'm currently in the middle of doing. And so far, my impressions of Winsford is that it's a very clean place. There hasn't been much dog muck on the floor. The houses are quite nice. There's a mixture of terraces, semi-detached and detached housing. There is an allotment near here that's got some nice sunflowers growing in it. It's quiet. Maybe it's helped along by the fact that the sun is out. Now, I have to say I have a connection with Winsford, so I have family from here. It's where my mum is from. And I've been here a lot, but a very specific part of town. Very rarely went to the town centre. I just went to my nan's house, basically. And my nan and granddad are buried in Winsford, and that's at St Chad's Church. So I'll be going to St Chad's Church, and I'll be doing my own version of how, the book would normally talk about a church for St Chad's. And I'll be going to the areas that I remember, because they're pretty much the same as this, and it's on the other side of town. If you look at a map of Winsford, it's kind of got a figure eight where it sort of focuses in the middle on the River Weaver, which makes sense because the town, as mentioned in the book actually, was built up from around 1721 when they canalised the River Weaver for the sake of transporting salt. Winsford is a big salt town. There was a number of mines back in the day, and sort of beneath the ground is a network of huge roads for mining salt, and that's kind of what the book focuses on. So it focuses on the fact that it mines salt, it focuses on the canalisation of the Weaver. I'm going to continue the walk, I'm going to take some more videos, and then we will reconvene later where I'll give you more of my opinions on how the town is. Okay, so since the last time I was talking to you all, I have journeyed into the centre of town. I've had a look around. I stopped at the local Wetherspoons for my breakfast. I sort of sat in there for a little bit and I decided I was going to read the book and I was going to sort of familiarise myself with the things being said. It does touch upon the fact that the town centre exists and it lists some of the facilities that they have there. This was 25 plus years ago that it was written, so it's probably changed slightly since then. I will say the Wetherspoons, pretty solid Wetherspoons, nice and cheap, nice and cheerful. There was plenty of people in there. It's not like this is a dead town centre where nobody comes and visits in the middle of the day. You can't really fault the general energy of the locals, let's say. Some of them have said hello to me as I've walked past them. That's not really something you get in the really dodgy places. People might talk to you, but it's normally a less of a cheery good morning and more of a strange experience. So after breakfast, went through the town centre. This is Friday morning, about 10:15 that I went through. It is the start of the summer holidays, so that probably makes it slightly busier. There was a few people around, and it was quite busy. You know, I only counted 5 of the shops were closed, and that's, compared to some, town centres I've been to, that's quite a small number. Although it is quite a condensed town centre, it is literally just the cross and then a few little outlets on the outsides of the cross, and then that's the only real shops I've seen. I know there's a few more built up areas highlighted on Google Maps that I'm going to try and visit and see what they look like, but I feel like they're mostly, runs of shops and takeaways and things. But the town centre, I have to say, not as quiet as some people would try and point out. It is just a mixture of vapes and charity shops and like home bargains and B&Ms and things like that, and then dotted around the outside there's an Asda, an Aldi, a Farm Foods, all the bigger traders. But all of it's quite neat looking. It's very, very clean. Everybody seems to be in a decent mood. I haven't seen anybody sort of making the place look untidy like some people do in town centres in Britain. It's been nice. There's been some really nice places. There's clearly a lot of effort being put into the town centre here to make it a nice place. There's a little plaza just outside the cross where they've got the war memorial. They've got a little family of robots. They've got a weird rocket ship thing. It's all art installations going underneath a main road. There's a helicopter flying above me. Perfect timing, helicopter, thank you very much. There's a little underpass under a main road that has that's been painted to say the future is bright, and it's got local kids artwork. There's a lot of effort being put in here. When you just go to where the bad things are and you just point out the bad, it definitely paints a bad picture of a town. This is the whole point of why I'm here, I'm going to harp on about it a lot, I think, but yeah, I'm glad that I came, and I'm glad that I've tried to be more positive and put a balanced view on it. There's definitely bad points, there's definitely things that could be improved upon, and I've not been cherry picking places. I've just sort of walked from the train station to the town centre and had a look around. This is just, you were going to visit Winsford, this is the experience that you would have. Next, I'm going to go and walk to the area of town that I'm more familiar with, and I'm going to go to St Chad's Church, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. Okay, so I've been walking for a while now, and I'm almost at where my grandparents used to live. And I have to say that passing through town, through the bits that I know, it's been a pretty consistent level of quite nice. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of towns in Cheshire. There are towns in Cheshire that I know of that have been sort of slated in videos and things, and they are 10 times worse than this. Perhaps the reason why there is only 1 or 2 Winsford videos is because, apart from the fact that it is apparently that's the worst for crime, it's really nice. So yeah, so I've kind of just been pottering around as I go to St Chad's. I didn't know Winsford as well as I thought. The road I was looking for, that I thought was where my grandparents lived, was a completely different road. The name of it stuck in my head for whatever reason for all these years, but it wasn't where my grandparents lived, unfortunately. And I feel like I've blown myself out of it walking so much. So my intention now is just to go to the church. I made it to St Chad's, and I'm currently sat near there, a remembrance garden, I guess. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief overview of St Chad's Church, sort of similar to the way that the book would normally. So, interesting discovery just made by me in a churchyard. Winsford grew over the years, and it absorbed a little village called Over. For reasons that escape me in the book, Winsford is just literally talking about Winsford town centre and the River Weaver, and Over is its own separate entry. This is something that worries me about the bigger towns and cities and things, is that they have so many districts and they've grown so much over the years that they've absorbed other places, and Ron Scholes has listed them separately. It's not how I would have written the book. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this Winsford and Over, and the only thing of Over that is really interested me and piqued my interest enough to really talk about right now is St Chad's Church. And I'm not going to read the book to you, because he always just used big words and fancy terms for architecture. St Chad's is named as such because it is believed that St Chad himself baptised people in a river nearby. what St Chad's means to me is it's a place that I've been to 2 funerals, my nana and my granddad, my mum's parents, and there's a pub just at the top of the lane that I'm walking on now. The only way to access the church is via this lane, and at the top when you turn left there is a little pub that I'm going to go to for a pint. I returned to the Winsford marina and to the flashes in the hopes of finding a couple of more nice angles of the flashes. Currently walking through like a wooded bit, so I haven't found any nice angles yet, but I'll get there. The flashes were formed back in, I think it was 1731. I said 21 earlier, but I'm pretty sure it's 31. In the 1730s, they were formed as part of the canalisation of the Weaver in order to connect Winsford to the Mersey. And they moved like 70,000 tonnes in their first sort of year of operation. And the flashes are still used today for water sports. As I was passing through, there's people with boats and things getting ready to go on. Salt is the other key part of this, and that's like the big trade from Cheshire, is that we have salt running underneath the ground. Winsford salt is particularly good for use in grit for the winter because it has a lot of sand in there. You could store it outside because the sand doesn't dissolve like regular salt would, sort of forming a protective barrier after the first bit of rain. Yeah, so you can see why Winsford built up and grew and grew and grew. There's a little view for you that I was talking about. So we're summarising the whole visit right now, and it is this. Though it may statistically be the highest crime location in Cheshire, and though there may be certain parts of it that are more run down than others or more neglected, let's say, by the government, is probably a better way of putting that. My experience today and my experience over all the times that I visited here has been very positive. And I just, I kind of want to convey that. It is a lovely place. All of the houses and things that I've visited have been lovely over the years, and all of the estates really sum it up for you now. I'm just coming out onto a lovely little view of the flashes. So I'm going to leave you with a view of the flashes. I'm going to leave you with the thought that perhaps before you really judge a town, you should come to it yourself. I never did. I don't look at any of these videos of places I've not been and say, oh yeah, I don't want to go there. I say, I want to go there, I want to experience for myself. Over the years, I've been to places that are good, I've been to places that are bad, I've been to places that have dodgy reputations, and I've been to places that have great reputations. And you always sort of find your own opinion is different. Winsford, in spite of what certain other YouTubers might say, and in spite of what the newspapers would say, has actually been a pleasant day out. That's it. That's the point that I'm making. The pubs that I've been to have been okay. Nothing special. It was the Weatherspoons, and the other one was actually quite nice on the inside. So, on average, okay. The flashes, quite a nice little spot that I'm stood at right now. The effort that's been put into the town centre is hard to be understated, because I've been to some town centres that are just woeful. Like and subscribe if you want to. Shout out to the Redditor that specifically mentioned Winsford and the person that agreed with them, and keep on questioning.